All right, so this is just sort of a short discussion, I guess. I'm throwing my experience into the ring when it comes to reviewing. I haven't been too up to date on the CS discourse recently, or ML discourse, I should say, but for a while, like 2021, uh, and maybe like 2019 to 2021, discussions of how to do reviewing and how the future of reviewing should look like were very much all the rage. All the conferences had like panels on them, there was workshops on them. I presented actually on at a workshop of one of these. So, there's lots of discussions around papers and the process of publishing and what it all should look like. And I have lots of thoughts that have changed over time on this issue. But one of my most recent experiences was I just finished submitting, or a couple days ago, I guess, I finished submitting my reviews. I reviewed 6 papers for NeurIPS, and whatever, neurological information processing systems. Weird conference name. It's just the ML1. And I realized something this time that I also realized I finished up, I don't know, like 2 months ago or something, the ICML reviews. I also reviewed whatever the standard is, 5 to 8 papers for ICML, the International Conference on Machine Learning. And I've come to realize why for most of these conferences, I really do not like reviewing for them. I always do not enjoy it, and I do not want to do it, and yet I always, or almost always, do it anyway. And when I say I review, I should specify absolutely not for like for-profit journals. I might have done it once early on, but I'm not anymore. Will I ever do that? That's just like, I don't know. It's weird that those even exist, to be honest. But this is strictly, I'm talking about pretty much the big ML conferences. So ICML, ICOR, NeurIPS, ICML, ICOR, NeurIPS. What's the other one? Triple AI. There's one more. There's a 5th big one. What am I blanking on? Okay. Well, anyway, those conferences. I've actually never reviewed for Triple AI. The other 3, plus one more, which I'm totally blanking on, is like the big 5 basically when it comes to ML conferences. And these conferences, unlike a lot of them in other fields, are extremely cheap and pretty accessible. All their papers are instantly available online. They have good websites. I went to conferences for like the entrance fee is like, if you're a student, it's like $10 or something. So I shouldn't say AAA. The other 3 or 4 are definitely very like accessible. And so, I like the idea behind that. However, one of the things, and just to contrast that, for example, with like physics conferences, like IEEE quantum computing is like $1,000 to get in, even with students, and they don't even, the papers are all behind paywalls. APS is like $800 usually, and the talks are like never shared and stuff. So like, I like the ML conference style has something going for it a lot better than the physics papers. But one of the things when it comes to reviewing is that, okay, yeah, there's a lot of papers. That's a big challenge, right? There's always like 12,000 submissions or something, probably even more now. Yeah, there's probably like 20,000 this year or something. But when it comes to this problem, right, everyone has different ideas of the problem and everyone has different ideas of the solution. Like, what is the problem? At its core is that the reviews that are submitted are not always great, and the reviewing process, I shouldn't say that, the reviewing process itself, people sometimes believe does not fulfill its job of letting in good papers and excluding bad papers. Now, whether or not that's actually true is subject of some debate, but everyone has their own sort of opinion on it. So I figured I'd just throw my hat into the ring. And really, I'm not going to be talking about how to fix it. I'm not even going to be talking what the problem is. I'm basically just going to be ranting about how, now that I've finished for 2 conferences in a row, why I really don't like reviewing. And I think this is part of I have to imagine this is part of the problem with the reviewer cycle. So the first reason I don't like reviewing is that the other reviews, sometimes my reviews are not great. I'm not a perfect reviewer. I have, just so you don't think I'm a random, complainer about this, right? Though I have been the highlighted reviewer, honored reviewer, whatever it's called at ICLR, ICML, and I think NeurIPS. I maybe not one of those, I forget, but so I've been, recognized to some capacity for not being a total trash reviewer. Um, so that's not saying I'm perfect by any means, but I can usually recognize a bad review when I spot one. Pretty much anyone can recognize a bad review when they spot one. And this is often what I see on these papers, right? When you submit a review, the other reviews are available to you. And you see that they're pretty bad a lot of the time. And this is not encouraging to my own work, right? Like, why, if I'm weighted, 1/4 of this score, why would I put in so much work when it's just going to get determined by 3 people basically flipping a coin? I do not know how often that I have, some accept or reject opinion on a paper, but it doesn't even matter because other 2 people just put borderline accept or borderline reject. Anything borderline these days is pretty much going to get rejected. And so it doesn't matter. Like, everyone just writes a mediocre review saying, oh, good presentation. Oh, bad, not enough data, not enough empirical results. Borderline accept, borderline reject. Like, that's what everything is. And then the worst part is when it comes time for author reviewer interactions, this is like the most important point. Nothing ever happens. Like, the authors will sometimes respond to the reviews, and then no one will respond. Literally radio silence. In fact, when I last reviewed for ICML like 2 months ago or 3 months ago, maybe more, on my however many papers, 6 papers, I was the only reviewer to respond to the authors, which is crazy. Like, that is so easy to do. You can literally just say, like, no one even said, oh, thanks, my original problem still stand. Like, okay, like, that's crazy that the reviewers just are completely bad in a lot of cases. And it's just like, it takes away from the enjoyment of reviewing if you're sort of the only one who's even quasi taking it seriously. To be fair, this last NeurIPS cycle I just submitted, I was pretty rushed, so definitely not my best reviews, but still, I'm gonna go respond to the authors when they like rebuttal my reviews. I'm definitely gonna go respond to them. So it's like, this is the bare minimum, and no one's doing it. And this is part of the reason that I feel sometimes compelled to do it, to do reviewing, is because at least the authors will get one reviewer who actually engages with them. Now, it sounds like I'm just blaming the reviewers. However, it's worth noting reviewers and authors, 2 sides of the same coin. It's the people are submitting to these conferences are also authors and reviewers. But, excuse me, the other thing is, and this is the bigger thing, is bad papers. Now, this may just be a lot of the papers I review at these AI-focused conferences are quantum adjacent. I do occasionally get an RL paper, like a purely classical RL paper, which is always fun. I actually enjoy reading those, especially if they're good. It's a fun change of pace. But for the other stuff, it's like maybe 5 of the 6 will be quantum machine learning papers, basically. The other one will be some sort of RL or quantum adjacent paper. And they're really, to be honest, they're really bad. And like, I've given out, so on most of these conferences, they use like a 1 to 10 scale. Consistently, I give out ones, twos, and threes for these QML papers. And that's not just me being like a jerk about it or me being super harsh, because I've given out way higher scores for papers. And my scoring of these QML papers often aligns with the other reviewers. It's just that I think some of the QML people try to sort of sneak by. Like CS, a lot of the other reviewers are often CS focused. So like who's going to have read the QML papers? Not that I'm always knowing every QML paper, but like I try to keep up somewhat regularly with the literature in QML. And so I think people sort of just say like, oh, I could submit this to some, PRX quantum, but it's going to get absolutely destroyed in reviews because those people know physics and quantum computing. But these ML people, right, they're going to be like, oh, quantum computing is so fast. They're going to see my little toy data set with arbitrary claims of exponential speed up, and they're just going to let it in. I could be wrong. That's just pure speculation. But it's like so bad. And the papers are just like bad. I know I'm just saying that over and over again. I don't want to like specify papers because I don't want to violate, the double blind procedure that we're in. I also don't want to single out authors, but it's like, okay, there's no, and this is sometimes is broader in the QML community. Everyone in classical machine learning complains about baselines. There's no baselines in any quantum paper. I swear, this like in the last two conferences, there's been like 4 papers maybe that have done some sort of benchmarking on MNIST, downsampled, keep in mind, to like 5 to 10 dimensions. And there's literally 0 comparisons to anything else. And that's their only result, is just like, oh yeah, we're improving state of the art for MNIST classification with quantum machine learning. Like, you can't even say it's state of the art if you literally have 0 benchmarks. Anyway, that's just part of the problem, is that the papers are bad. And so like, I don't like reading bad papers. And this is the same thing. I have a couple more videos coming out soon, talking about some quantum stuff. There is definitely a video in the making about the whole discussion about quantum advantage in the IBM Nature cover paper. But the point I'm circling around is basically that these quantum computing papers are unfun to read because they're just not interesting and they're not well written and the results aren't compelling. And so it's like the asymmetry between, right? They write a whole 10-page paper plus appendices with so many formulas. Like, I gotta actually read this stuff. And it takes so much work to write a review that's a strong reject review. And the worst part is, it doesn't even matter. And why I say it doesn't matter is, this is the most infuriating thing, right? I have no problem reviewing bad papers in principle if I can, we can iterate together. I can read a bad paper, we can make it better, we can, like, as a collaborative effort, I would absolutely be fine with that. But the problem is, like, anything under 3, people know it's a game. So anything under a 3, or even a 4 realistically as an average, the authors do not respond because they're not going to waste their effort responding when they're not going to get accepted. Like, that paper's not going to get accepted. That's just a fact. So like, why waste your energy responding? Which I get it. Okay, don't hate the player, hate the game. But still, if I do this work, I write this 1,000-word review critiquing every aspect of it, suggesting helpful fixes, trying my best to actually improve this paper, and then bam, instantly withdrawn. Like, they didn't even read the review. So I could have just written a 1-word review and it would have been the same effect. And so this is what's so annoying. And this happens not infrequently, is that low score papers will not always get withdrawn. Some of them do, but just the authors do nothing and it just doesn't get in. And then I just saw the papers for AAA got announced. an exact paper that I reviewed and 4 other people did. That was a bad paper. It got like a 2 average score, got accepted unchanged into um, AAAI. Now, I don't want to say a lot to like reveal this paper, but I mean, it was very much in my area of knowledge and expertise. I like some papers with most papers. I'm like, okay, I could be wrong about this. Like, I was not wrong about this paper. I am very aware of what's going on in this very small subfield, and this was not like a quality contribution. But that paper I reviewed, 4 other people or whatever reviewed it, gave it 2s. They did not respond in any capacity, and they're just going to re-roll it at the next conference. And so it's so like not enjoyable to do this. And so that's why I just do not like reviewing, is because the other reviewers are so low effort. The authors are extremely low effort, and the papers are often bad. And so the whole thing is just like it feels like an exercise in futility. And so it's just, I don't know. It's always one of those things where I I get reviewer invitations for the ICML, ICOR, NeurIPS, etc. And I always say, I'm like, I do not want to do this, but I do it anyway. I don't know. Maybe it's because maybe my actions are all an effort, in vain, but I have to believe that, if everyone just like, if the authors and reviewers just put in a tiny bit more work, like the system would be working amazingly. But instead, we're stuck where we are. So as you can see, that was just a rant. All I have to say is, I the other reviewers are annoying, the authors are annoying, and I just don't like it. And I don't think anyone else likes it. I think that reviewers often don't put effort in because it's not enjoyable. Not that reviewing should be an enjoyable process, but what's enjoyable is feeling that you're contributing to something, helping make papers better, and doing an important job. Maybe enjoyable isn't the right word, but fulfilling, and but it's none of those things. And so maybe that's the first step to fixing the reviewing system. I don't know, but that's my rant on this subject.